Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. What do we got today, Rick?
We got our Week 9 trade targets.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. I am not on any kind of performance-enhancing drug.
Yeah, right, totally.
My name's Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always. What's poppin', Rick?
What's up, dude?
Today we have our Week 9 trade targets. We're approaching most leagues' trade deadlines very soon. So it is time to make your last-second deals to prepare for your fantasy championships, because that's the only way you're going to win anything is if you have easy matchups. That's about it. I mean, I have plenty of easy matchups this week, and I got toasted, so.
Anything can happen.
Jonathan Taylor had 4 points.
Yep.
Calvin Ridley broke his foot, so I got 5 points from him.
Yep.
A.J. Brown's offense decided to poop itself against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yep. Thankfully, trash time touchdown for A.J. Brown and Ryan Taylor, or else I would have been screwed. Yeah, thanks for that. But anyway, trade targets are what are going to carry your team. So we're going to give you some guys you should buy and sell, obviously. But we want to talk about some guys that can carry you to a championship in our buy column. So that should be interesting. But anyway, before we jump into that, check out our website at thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter at the FFChamps, on Instagram at thefantasychampions. You can like us at facebook.com/thefantasychampions. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform, be sure to leave a review, share this podcast with your friends, and subscribe. We can't stress it enough. Helps the brand, helps the people win the championships. Yes.
If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. 1,000 subs. You know what's going to happen. Rick's head. I was going to say Rick's head all over the floor, but that would not be the right thing to say.
No, not at all.
His hair all over the floor. Click the bell for notifications, like and comment down below, but be sure to subscribe. 1,000 subs is what we want to get to. So let's jump right into our trade targets for Week 9. Rick, why don't you start it off with a guy that you added to the list? You've been trying to add this guy for a little bit now, and I was like, dude, not enough name rec. Why you trying to make me add him? But I'll let you have it.
You caved in this week.
Go away.
It's Jarrett McKinnon.
Explain.
If you have Jarrett McKinnon on your team, you need to sell him now. You don't need to, but you should. But the reason being is, so first of all, later. Right now the San Francisco 49er backfield is totally injured. Mostert's on IR. Coleman, who got activated from IR, got injured in the game against Seattle and left the game. I don't know the update on his injury situation, but I think he's going to miss some time. I could be wrong.
Okay.
But with those guys injured and banged up, and Jeff Wilson as well, also on IR. 3 running backs on IR.
Right.
Jarrett McKinnon didn't get a whole lot of work last few weeks. They said he was resting his legs or something like that. His legs needed rest. That was the excuse. So, but he still ended up with 10 fantasy points this week, even though he had 3 carries for -1 yard. It was all in the receiving game. He had 4 catches for 4 yards, and he had a goal line touchdown. So I think you can sell him this week. You can go to a team and say, look, the 49ers have no running backs right now. He's going to be the starter for at least the next few weeks. You can, and with the amount of teams that are desperate right now for running backs, you are able to sell him. I mean, take it from me. So there's going to be someone in the comments that's going to say you can't sell Jarrett McKinnon at all. You can in some leagues. I have him in 2 leagues, and there's been people asking me for him for just the next few weeks for people that have injured running backs that are coming back.
Yeah.
And you can get something that's worth it, because in a few weeks he's not going to be worth it at all when Mostert comes back and Coleman, Jeff Wilson. He's going to be like the 4th string running back on the team. So I would sell Jarrett McKinnon right now.
That's fair. I think the reason why I was hesitant, not because I think you should keep him, because hey, if you have somebody who wants to buy Jarrett McKinnon, go freaking right ahead.
Go to the team who has Mostert.
Go to the team that has Mostert, but sell that guy as fast as you freaking can. McKinnon was doing good, and then he fell off a cliff
He did fall.
He's like the week before he had like against New England, he had negative 0.1 fantasy points. And then he had 3 and 1 against Miami. After having a really great couple against me. After having a great couple weeks to start the season. And then he went back to what he was doing before, got those 11 fantasy points. So he hasn't necessarily been awful, but I think the big thing about Jerick McKinnon is that out of he's had 5 games above 10 fantasy points this year. Out of those 5 games, he has had 3 rushes in one, 3 rushes in the second, 3 rushes in the last one he had against Seattle. And then he had 2 games where he had 14 carries each, where he actually got a majority of the carries in that game. So he's been good fantasy points wise on physical paper. Like when you break down the analytics inside his fantasy points, not looking good.
If you just tunnel vision look at fantasy points.
Yeah, and so there's somebody in your league that tunnel vision just looks at fantasy points.
There absolutely probably is.
The only thing that he does do well is pass catching. It's just if they ever give him an expanded role rushing, it would probably make him far more valuable. But like Rick said, the big point behind this is the fact that you're going to have Mostert coming back soon. They like this hasty kid.
There's so many running backs, and it's the 49ers. They use a different one.
Yeah, and Coleman will probably come back in the next couple of weeks as well. So as soon as Mostert, Tevin Coleman get back, McKinnon's going to be the third guy. And if maybe they like Hasty more than McKinnon now.
Jeff Wilson was getting more work than McKinnon too.
Yeah. So they have 5 running backs. I mean, it's disgusting, and it's time. I agree with Rick. It's time to sell. But the hard part is that I don't know that McKinnon is sellable. And that's the thing that I have, like, I don't know if you can go to a fantasy manager and say, hey, do you want Jerick McKinnon?
There's definitely going to be
I'm sure as hell going to say, no way, get away from me with that garbage.
Right. But if you like the way I put it in the league,
this is just Rick propaganda so we can sell them in our league.
Well, not even in the league that we're in, our home league, but in another league I'm in, I'm like, if you guys need like an RB3, like a third running back, maybe even a bench running back, if you have just some injuries or some insurance, I'm willing to sell McKinnon. And I've gotten some offers that I will take for Jerick McKinnon. So
it's
plausible. You're not going to get obviously a lot for him.
Yeah,
but you can get something decent at least.
Yeah. So now that we're past Jerick McKinnon, let's reference one guy that. So me and Rick both early in the season kind of projected this guy to actually have a decent season this year. I believe he's the RB8. Is that correct? Do I have that right?
Currently, yeah, I think so.
Let me just pull it up real fast so I don't totally screw it up. He is currently
RB6.
RB6. So Todd Gurley is the man's. And we believed in Todd Gurley in the regular season. We thought maybe that he would finish right around this range of 6 to 12 and that he was going to be a top running back. And, that he wasn't going to get, that he was going to get back to what he normally is capable of, but that he wasn't going to be any worse than what he was with the Rams last year. Now, it's kind of like sometimes when you're predicting something, it becomes true, but it doesn't become true for the reasons that you think it becomes true.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened with Todd Gurley. He has not necessarily been targeted in the passing game as much as we thought he would based on what they did with Devonta Freeman. But the big thing with Todd Gurley has been the touchdowns. That is what a lot of people did not expect when projecting Todd Gurley. They thought Todd Gurley was going to come out and be a guy that had, no touchdowns rushing this year because that's not the style of offense that this team runs. And it traditionally is not. But he's been getting the carries in the red zone, and maybe that's what they brought him in to do, just be a bowling ball in the red zone. His efficiency has not been like he's had some really good games, and he's had some really bad games. 3.79 yards a carry, 8 touchdowns on the year. He doesn't have a single receiving touchdowns, I should say. And he's really at this point on pace for like maybe 1,000 yards rushing and like 140 yards receiving. So he's not efficient in terms of the fact that he's the RB6 should tell you enough that he's being over efficient in the touchdown category.
Yep.
Not only that, but you can sell him as the RB6, like we said.
Absolutely.
His schedule in the second half of the season is awful.
Yes.
It's very bad. And he has Denver, New Orleans, the Raiders, which is a good matchup. New Orleans again, Los Angeles Chargers, Tampa Bay, and then Kansas City. So he has 2 easy matchups over the stretch of that time, and he has a bye week on top of it.
Yeah.
So the hard part about Gurley is that he's got a tough matchup, and he's touchdown dependent at this point. And when the touchdowns stop flowing in his direction, it's not really going to look good for Todd Gurley. So I think he's a perfect sell opportunity right now because you can sell him at. He did not have a bad week this week, and you can sell him. He almost did. Saved it with a touchdown, but he's one of those guys you can look at and sell as a top 6 running back, and tell people, hey, this guy's really good. Gurley's back, and you might be able to get the Gurley lover to buy high.
Absolutely. And like you said, this was something we both agreed on doing our show notes like immediately. You said Todd Gurley, and I was like, yep, because I was looking before we talked about our show notes, and there was one guy that really stood out to me for sell, and that was Todd Gurley. First of all, this week, as I said, he was saved by that touchdown. He had like 3 fantasy points through 3.5 quarters, and then he scored that touchdown late, which got him up to 10 points. Todd Gurley right now is absolutely a sell. He's the RB6, like you said. You can sell him as that. You mentioned the schedule, how easy or how hard it is going forward, but how easy it was in the beginning. He has not played against a tough team this year against the run.
Yeah.
There has not been, like, if you go on Sleeper and you just click on Todd Gurley's name, it's all been green. Every single game except 2 that were orange, which means they're like average against the run fantasy-wise. So he's had only good matchups. His snap percentage has been poor all season. He had a 50% snap percentage this week. Brian Hill had 11 carries and had almost pretty much split with Todd Gurley. Gurley got a couple more carries, but it was close to being a split this week. And if that continues going forward, it's going to be an absolute disaster fantasy-wise. Gurley also this season, which is one thing I loved about Gurley in the offseason, was I looked at him going on the Falcons and I said, okay, what did Devonte Freeman do in the passing game last year? Freeman had 70 targets last year in 14 games. And I thought to myself, wow, if Gurley can get that on pace for a full 16, that's like 85 targets. Like he's going to have a fantastic fantasy season. Through 8 games this season, he only has 20 targets. He's on pace for 40 targets this year. That is just not really good enough. If he's not going to keep up with the touchdowns, which we both don't think he will, that's just not good enough for the rest of the season.
It is discouraging. We're right for all the wrong reasons.
Right, exactly. So going forward, rest of the season, I don't see Todd Gurley being the RB6 going forward at all. Right. I really, really would recommend selling him. Not that he's going to be awful. Like he'll probably have some good weeks. That week against the Chiefs, maybe he might do something. Maybe he'll get lucky he'll probably have a good week against the Raiders. But he has to play the Saints twice rest of the season. And the Saints have probably the best run defense in the league, or at least top 5. Like you said, he's got the bye. He has to play Denver this week, another top 5, top 10 rush defense. And even Tampa, he's got to play Tampa twice this season too, which is another top 5, top 10 run defense. It's just everything going bad for Todd Gurley going forward. Yeah,
totally agree. You can sell him for something good. I would maybe package him in a wide receiver if you have one to get an upgrade at running back.
If you can do that,
if you can do that, absolutely do it. And then if you're weak at wide receivers, I don't know, a lot of teams are, and you have Gurley, I would trade him for a wide receiver and try to get somebody good. But anyway, the third guy on our sell list is Travis Fulgam, and so Fulgam. This is another one of those guys. It's a tough one because I do feel like Travis Fulgam is going to be a good wide receiver for the Eagles, especially when all their wide receivers get hurt every 5 minutes. So and if Travis Fulgam continues to be efficient and do the things that he's been doing the last couple of weeks, then he is certainly a really good wide receiver to keep on your team. But I do think that there is a ceiling for this guy. Since essentially starting, he's had 26, 16, 9, and 16. His schedule is easy going forward. Rick mentioned that before the show, which is what makes us hesitant. His schedule is easy going forward. He's on a bye week, which obviously kind of lessens the value a little bit because everyone's going to be like, I don't want to buy him. He's on a bye week. But over the next couple of weeks. So I think the biggest reason why he's a sell is because I still think he's going to be good rest of season, and he'll probably be, I don't think he's going to play at a league-winning pace, but I think he's a good solid 12 to 15 points a game, and he can be a solid like mid-range wide receiver too, rest of season. But I think the thing with Fulgam is that I think a lot of people right now, especially with bye weeks, are desperate for some startable wide receiver help. And so I think you can package Fulgam up and sell him to a team that needs a wide receiver and maybe pick up a decent running back while the value is high. Because I really don't think that Travis Fulgam is going to continue the pace of play that he's been at. Like he's averaging, I think, is 17 fantasy points a game right now.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And I want to go back and look at week 4 through 8 just to see where he landed in terms of wide receiver production. Let's just see. I got it pulled up.
Yeah, I mean he's been great, right? And that's the thing. That's what makes it hard.
Travis Fulgam since week 4 is the wide receiver 1.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm absolutely serious.
Wow.
Since he started starting or playing in week 4, he has been the wide receiver 1 in front of Metcalf and Devonte Adams. But Adams played 3 games. So
yeah, Devonte Adams is like the wide receiver 6 in like 5 games.
Devonte Adams is like the wide receiver 1 million ahead of everyone else.
Right. But yeah, he's just the wide receiver 1. That is crazy. And that's why you should sell him, because again, I think he's going to be good. And you touched on some points that if you look at his target share, when all those guys were out, Goddard was out and Rieger was out, he was getting like 13, 10, 11 targets 3 straight weeks. That's not going to continue with Dallas Goddard coming back this week. He was limited, only had 1 target. Jalen Rieger came back this week, and his targets and Fulgram's target share still went down to 7 targets. When Alshon Jeffrey comes back, Deshaun Jackson comes back, Jalen Rieger is going to be there, Dallas Goddard is going to be there, Zach Ertz is coming back. There's just so many guys in that offense that he'll still be good, because I think he's played well enough to earn his spot in the roster. Like he'll probably outplay Alshon Jeffrey, to be honest, at this point. He'll probably take that role, but he's still, that target share is going to go down. And it's going to stay around that 7-6 range, I feel like, rest of the season. And it's good.
It's difficult.
And he's going to be efficient with that. I mean, he might even get more than that, but it's probably going to be around the 7 range, and he'll be efficient. He'll get like 5-6 catches a week, but he's just not going to be the type of receiver that he's been the last few weeks, which is the wide receiver 1 in fantasy. It's just not,
right.
It's not going to happen. And I do like Travis Fulgam, and I think he's a good player, but I think it's a good time to sell him. Yeah, definitely. Let's move on to what you've been waiting for, which is the buys. Some of these are going to be pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. I feel like, but it's worth a shot, and they're going to be more difficult buys. I'll tell you that much. But you might have a shot. So we'll just throw it out there. One is Michael Thomas. And obviously Michael Thomas, ridiculous last year. Besides injuries, he's been dealing with more character issues and just the like with the Saints. And he's not really been there, I guess, all season. So if I am the manager of Michael Thomas, I'm sitting here going, I'm getting frustrated. I don't like this situation. This kind of blows. I'm not getting production from my first round pick, because he probably was a first round pick, and I need to get more production out of him. So I think that the owner is frustrated, and I think that definitely frustrated. Yeah,
that it's worth reaching out to them and saying, what do you want to do for Michael Thomas? Because if you need wide receiver help, or maybe not, maybe you don't need wide receiver help, you just want to bolster your roster, I would reach out, because Thomas is a top 5 wide receiver.
He's top 3.
Top 3 wide receiver when he's on the field. Yeah. And it's like, if the person who has him really doesn't, like, he's really frustrated and doesn't want him on the team, then he'll for sure sell him at a lower value. And I think that if you can take advantage of that and get a top 3 wide receiver on your team, you're in great shape. And this prepares you also for the postseason, because I don't know what his schedule looks like rest of the season, but it doesn't really matter with Michael Thomas. He's still going to get you, he's matchup proof, and he's still going to get you like 15 to 20 fantasy points a game. So, you can get him on your roster, bolster that lineup before you hit the postseason and make your run for a championship, that would be awesome. Especially if Michael Thomas is on a team who's been losing, and they're desperate to maybe turn some guys around and pick up some players. But
Michael Thomas actually has an easy schedule the rest of the season. That's This is the thing with Michael Thomas. You're probably going to be like, man, it's kind of hard to buy Michael Thomas because even though he hasn't played this year, really, he's still Michael Thomas. But it is the perfect time to buy him because, as you said, the owner is frustrated, right? And when Michael Thomas comes back, he's going to get so many targets in that offense.
Yeah.
He's like, other than Devontae Adams, when he's healthy, he's the next wide receiver that I want. Right now, Traquan Smith is their wide receiver one. Like Dalvin Cook got 9 catches, or not Dalvin Cook, sorry. Alvin Kamara got 9 catches this week.
Yeah.
Jared Cook had 5 catches this week. If they just had Michael Thomas in that offense, he probably would have had like a 15 catch a week. Like he's going to get like an insane amount of targets going forward. His schedule is easy as well. If he's just healthy, he's going to be right there with Devontae Adams, and it's somebody that you should absolutely try to get in your team right now before he starts playing again. Other than Tampa this week, his schedule, he's got San Francisco, which their secondary has actually been struggling this year. They give up a lot of points to wide receivers. But he's got Atlanta twice, Denver, Philadelphia, who's given up a lot of points to wide receivers. Kansas City, that's kind of a tough matchup. And then Minnesota, who has also struggled against wide receivers. So he really has one tough matchup going forward.
Yeah.
He's an absolute buy.
It's definitely a great opportunity to buy him. The number 2 guy on our list is Nick Chubb. I think this is for obvious reasons. Chubb is probably one of the best pure runners in the NFL. The running game for the Browns, Kareem Hunt has done a great job filling the role, but they look disjointed a little bit.
Not quite Nick Chubb, yeah.
Yeah, so he's not obviously as pure a runner as Nick Chubb is.
Right.
But I do think that getting Nick Chubb back will help the team a lot. My only concern with Nick Chubb is that, and this is the concern that I have when I have Kareem Hunt on my team, is that Nick Chubb is going to be very tied to his team's performance. And if they have a really, really bad week offensively, it's going to be a bad week for Nick Chubb. You know what I mean? He's not a running back that can save his week and get 25 fantasy points, even though his team only scores, 14 points. He's just not that type of running back. So he's going to be dependent on them having the lead and all kinds of other stuff. But with that being said, Chubb has been out for a while. They still don't know if he's going to be out, or he's going to be back week 10. They're kind of hesitant. I think they're a little bit hesitant on bringing him in because I don't think they necessarily want to rush Nick Chubb back. So if he's out if he's out this week with the bye and then he's out week 10, it's more concerning moving forward for the person who has Nick Chubb. I think they've waited a very long time to get Nick Chubb on the field. And this could be another frustration situation like Michael Thomas, where you can go to that person and say, all right, are you willing to sell? And if they say yes, then obviously you can get a top 12 running back pretty easily.
Yeah. Nick Chubb, dude, like he's somebody that, I mean, my friend.
You love Nick Chubb.
I love him.
You love him a little too much.
He's got a pretty easy schedule. He's on track to play right now in week 10. He's got Houston, Philly, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Baltimore. That's tough. But then the Giants and Jets. Right. I mean, that playoff schedule other than Baltimore is fantastic. The championship weeks, Giants, Jets, like that's awesome. When you're right with the point where the offense has to do good. But I think in a lot of those weeks, like I don't really see them struggling in any of those weeks except maybe Baltimore. I mean, definitely Baltimore. They'll probably struggle against Baltimore. But other than that, I think it's going to be pretty easy. He averaged 6 yards a carry when he was healthy. And with the running back kind of shortage this year.
Yeah.
If he was healthy the whole season, he probably would have been a top 5 running back. And that's somebody that you can acquire right now.
I would say top 7, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So he's somebody that you could acquire right now. You're going to want to do it before he comes back. Because once he comes back against Houston, it's 20 points.
He's going to be worth a top 6, 7.
Yeah, that owner's just not going to want to trade him.
Yeah. Totally agree with that one. Final one is Lamar Jackson. This one's for it's a little bit more interesting. Lamar has been And the whole Baltimore Ravens team has been a little bit disappointing offensively. I mean, Mark Ingram hasn't performed. Marquise Brown hasn't been the guy you wanted. Even Mark Andrews hasn't been the guy you want. And this just goes back to what we told you in the offseason about this entire offense. We still like Lamar because of the rushing, but outside of him, we pegged this entire offense for regression. And that's exactly what happened. And all of these guys had just not like kind of reached that potential. You know, Andrews has had some really great games. Marquise Brown's had some decent outings, but it's like there's just no real like the way they play their offense. There's no ability to have an elite scorer, but outside of Mahomes, outside of Lamar Jackson. The reason why I put Lamar Jackson on this list as a buy is because he has not been playing up to his top 3 potential. The person who drafted him probably spent the 3rd round pick on him and is just like, oh my God, why did I waste the pick on a quarterback? The big thing about Lamar Jackson, he's had some good games this year, but he hasn't, some other games look like his rookie year. You know what I mean? In terms of fantasy points, not in terms of how he plays the game. But I think that as you go further along in the season, the big reason, and this goes to what we were talking about before with the buys, you're hitting that point in the season where you have to start planning your postseason. And Lamar Jackson has an easy schedule in the postseason. So I don't like buying quarterbacks generally, but if you have an opportunity to go out and get Lamar Jackson for the postseason run, I would totally do it because he can give you those 30-point games when you need them, especially in a 5 or a 6-point touchdown league where people are like, wow, I need a quarterback to have success in my postseason. Lamar Jackson could be that guy.
Yeah, he's a QB 14 right now. So the owner's like, what's the point? Why did I even draft this guy? The way he's played this year, I mean, I don't know.
And he hasn't missed any time either, so it's been even worse. It's like that's not good. I think I just lost Rick there for a second. Let me pull him back in.
I don't know how we lost connection.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, I literally laughed. I made a joke and then you just weren't there anymore.
The joke was so bad.
I thought, you just dropped out of the call. What were you saying?
I was just saying Lamar's the QB 14. So the owner's like, dude, why did I draft him in the 3rd round? Like, I just want to get rid of this guy. So you can buy him because, as you said, his end of the season schedule is very good. Yeah. And like, he hasn't been like awful. He's just like 1 or 2, like he's like a rushing touchdown away every week from being like top 5
to like explode,
blowing up, right?
And I think that has something more to do with the fact that Lamar Jackson does not have, I guess, the ability to, or more specifically this year with the lack of not the lack of. I like to tread lightly with what I'm saying here because there's no lack of when it comes to the Ravens, I guess. But the decreased efficiency that their offense has had this year has led Lamar Jackson to a place of not being able to score that extra touchdown. But the scheduled match, the matchups scheduled moving forward are easier, so that touchdown might produce itself, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that number will go up because it's going to be decreased from what it was last season, no matter what. But where it is right now, like I think he has 12 touchdown passes in 8 games or 7 games. I think he'll probably get that up a little bit, and I think the rushing is the big thing. This week he finally started to rush a little bit more. He had 16 carries for 60 yards. I'm not saying he's going to get 16 carries a week or anything like that, but if he can start rushing more, because this year they've been trying to throw the ball more, which it's fine, but fantasy wise it's not exactly what you want. Like for example, in week 5 against Cincinnati, he had 2 carries for 3 yards. Like that's just not Lamar. So if he can start to get more like the week before against Philly, or the week after, where he had 9 carries for 108 yards and a touchdown. If he can start in the last 2 weeks, he's kind of started to run more a little bit. If he can just run a little bit more and just get like that rushing touchdown, he has 2 rushing touchdowns this year. If he can just be a little bit more productive, which the schedule shows it's possible he can do, he's going to have a great second half of the year, and you can buy him at a very cheap price right now.
Agreed. That'll do it for the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. All the trade targets listed right there. Check it out on our YouTube. All kinds of good stuff. Be sure to subscribe. Don't forget to check out our website, thefantasychampions.com. Tomorrow, we'll see you. We'll talk to you then. Thursday.
Later.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.